Despite the pressure campaign by Israel and the United States, UNRWA, the UN agency that cares for Palestinian refugees, has had its mandate extended. But why did Washington and Tel Aviv oppose UNRWA's activities in the first place? While it's a humanitarian mission, it's a humanitarian mission with political ramifications. The millions of refugees that UNRWA cares for hold a certain political right. You may have sometimes seen Palestinian protesters demonstrating with these iron keys. That's not their car keys, by the way. That's the keys to their homes. They hold on to them because they hold on to the belief that one day they will return back to their homes. Homes that Israel took away from them by military force. Homes that are now being squatted on by the Israelis. Homes in occupied Palestine. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Wissam Bahrani, and on this episode of Palestine Files, we're going to focus on the Palestinian right of return.
In December 2019, the United Nations General Assembly voted to extend the mandate of the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees, also known as UNRWA. The mandate for the agency will now run until 2023. Member states voted overwhelmingly in favor of the extension. It comes despite fierce opposition from Israel and the United States, who found themselves isolated.
The result of vote is as follows. In favor 169, against 2, abstention 9. The draft resolution 1 is adopted. The meeting is adjourned.
The acting commissioner to the agency said this outcome confirms the international community's trust in the ability of UNRWA to deliver on the critical mandate of protecting and providing essential services to the millions of Palestine refugees under its care.
UNRWA هي زي ما تقول تأمين حياتنا وهي لا تجزأ من عقلات فلسطين واحنا ماسكين فيها لأنه زي ما تقول سند إلنا سند إنه نحمي حقنا هذا هو.
Since 2018, UNRWA has faced budgetary difficulties. This is when Washington, its biggest donor, halted its aid of $360 million per year. Israel welcomed the move by America. In fact, Tel Aviv lobbied for it. The move by the White House was rumored to be part of its so-called deal of the century. Reports suggest this was meant to kill the right of return for millions of Palestinian refugees to their homeland. 2 days after the UN resolution was passed, the Palestinian Authority Prime Minister said that Palestine rejects the US deal of the century. Mohammad Shtaya added, "We will not wait for the deal. It will be born dead if it is announced." The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas declared that it sees the new UN mandate on UNRWA as another failure to hostile US policies against Palestinian rights.
It's a very serious issue, the cornerstone of the Palestinian struggle. So let's bring in our guest. Dr. Ahlam Muhtasab is a professor of media studies and the director of the Center for Islamic and Middle Eastern Studies at California State University. Dr. Ahlam, welcome. It seems like the tables turned at the UN General Assembly against Israel and the US, and the world no longer wants to allow Tel Aviv to get away with what many describe as its ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. Is this correct, and will it last?
Yes, especially, as I said earlier, with the International Criminal Court's prosecutor Fatou Bendousa's announcement. She founded a basis for investigating possible war crimes by Israel in the occupied Palestinian territories. But she's first asking the court to confirm that it has jurisdiction there, which Israel actually insists it does not. But it's a matter of time and then hopefully that the jurisdiction will be established and the court will continue with its persecution. This is a very important step in that direction. Also, I want to say that even if we look at the United States from the inside, I came to the United States in the late 1990s on a Fulbright scholarship, and I wanted to stay only 1 year. Then I stayed, until today. I actually noticed a very steady, paradigm shift in terms of the discourse on Palestine in the United States, especially in academia. And that's why we have all this harassment and all this fighting of the BDS movement, the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against Israel in the United States. That's why we have Trump issuing his order last week. He does not represent the American people necessarily, or things on the ground as they are moving forward, justice in Palestine, especially with the current changes also in the political system in the United States. It's very slow but steady. So I'm hopeful from that perspective.
Right. Tell us about the Palestinian refugees. Are they demanding anything more than their basic rights?
I have done extensive research in the Palestinian refugee camps in Syria and Palestine, in Lebanon, several episodes of doing field work there and interviewing. I did interviews. I have over 100 interviews with refugees, even in the United States, in Canada, and other places. In all these interviews, I asked them about their, what they expected in terms of the right of the return, and intergenerationally also. And everyone, except probably for one woman in Sabra, in Sabra neighborhood, everybody said that they wanted to go back home to Palestine. And also, the other demands other than this from official organizations representing refugees like Al-Awda, the Palestine Right to Return Coalition, and other organizations, is also for reparations for the refugees for all these years, over 71 years of colonization of Palestine. So there needs to be reparation for those displaced Palestinians in the refugee camps.
Dr. Ahlam, thank you very much indeed. And don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to you later on in the show. Now, our team spent some time with Palestinian refugees regarding the right of return. Let's hear their point of view.
حق العودة بالنسبة للشعب الفلسطيني هو حياة أو موت، لأنه مصير الشعب الفلسطيني سواء الآباء أو الأبناء لابد وأن يأتي يوم من الأيام بأن يعودوا إلى قراهم ومدنهم بفلسطين بإذن الله تعالى، لأن الشعب اليهودي أو هذه الحثالة التي جاءت إلى فلسطين من جميع شتات العالم لها قرار واحد، إما أن يبقوا تحت أقدامنا وإما أن يعودوا إلى ديارهم.
مهم أنه وفق القرار 194 عودتنا لأراضينا المحتلة عام 48، ونحن كجيل صغير لم يشاهد بلاده المحتلة يتوق للعودة إلى هذه الأرض. وبكل تأكيد إسرائيل يعني ليس بهذه السهولة ستسمح لنا بالعودة، ولكن بوحدتنا وبالدعم الدولي للفلسطينيين وحقوقهم إن شاء الله سنعود.
هو حق لنا وحقنا إنه نحن العيش بكرامة، بس إسرائيل مش هتسمح لنا نرجع، لأنه إسرائيل هي اللي مسيطرة على البلد، هي اللي مسيطرة على وضع فلسطين من الألف للياء، من الضفة الغربية لقطاع غزة. بتسمحش حتى للمريض يطلع من قطاع غزة، ولا بتسمح لتعون الضفة يجوا على غزة. كيف بدها تسمح لنا نرجع في القرار 194؟
هذا الشاهد الوحيد، قرار 194 وإنشاء وكالة الغوث الأونروا هو الشاهد الوحيد والأوحد بعد المخيمات على الجريمة الكبرى اللي ارتكبها الاحتلال الإسرائيلي بحق الشعب الفلسطيني.
احنا طبعا أنا حابة يعني نرجع لأراضينا، واحنا يعني من حقنا احنا نرجع لبلدنا وأصلنا.
حق العودة قرار 194 يكفل للشعب الفلسطيني حقوقه المشروعة لاستعادة أرضه من خلال تفويض الأونروا لمدة 3 سنوات، هذا حق يعني نعتبره انتصار للشعب الفلسطيني.
يعني أنا بعتقد تفويض الوكالة لمدة 3 سنوات هذا نصرة للقضية الفلسطينية وللاجئ الفلسطيني، إنه هناك اعتراف كامل بحق اللاجئ بعودته إلى ديار.
What you heard there were Palestinians in refugee camps in the besieged Gaza Strip. With almost 2 million people living in a dire humanitarian situation, Gaza is described as the world's largest open-air prison.
For nearly 2 years now, Palestinians have been protesting in the besieged Gaza Strip every Friday. Israel's response to the peaceful demonstrations has been widely condemned. The regime has adopted the controversial shoot-to-kill policy. Snipers have been taking down women, children, medics, and even journalists. Hundreds of Palestinians have been shot dead. Tens of thousands of others have been injured, many with life-changing conditions. The protesters, by staging rallies dubbed the Great March of Return, have a clear demand: the right of return to their homeland, which has been occupied by Israel for decades. This is the cornerstone of the Palestinian struggle. This right is enshrined in international law. In 1948, the United Nations General Assembly adopted Resolution 194, which recognizes the Palestinian refugees' right of return. In 1967, the UN Security Council passed Resolution 237. This also called on Israel to facilitate the return of Palestinians to their homes. Many other UN resolutions and laws, including the international refugee and human rights legislation, support this Palestinian demand.
يعني أنا ما بقدر أستغني عن بلدي مع إنه أنا مواليد بيت لحم، بس بضل ريحة بلدي الأصلية بتاعت أبوي وأجدادي هي جوا قلبي.
The Palestinian victims of Israel's ethnic cleansing in 1945 and 1967 and their descendants carry the right to return.
هذا أمنايا أرجع على بلدي وافتح كمان مصنع عزب أفتحها أنا في بيت لحم، لأنه هذه بلدي أنا ولدت فيها وهذه بلد أبوي وجدادي. وعلى اليوم لو صح لنا بفتح مصنع هون نفس المصنع اللي بفتحها في بيت لحم.
These are the indigenous inhabitants of occupied Palestine. They are more than 5 million people. Today, they are scattered across the region, not far from their homeland, but mostly living in refugee camps.
So where exactly are the refugees that UNRWA is caring for? Well, they're based in the occupied West Bank, occupied Jerusalem al-Quds, the besieged Gaza Strip, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and according to UNRWA, they total at about 5.5 million children, women and men. Remember that number, it's important, 5.5 million Palestinians whose parents and grandparents lived in cities such as current-day Tel Aviv, Ba'ir Shiva, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Eilat or Haifa. Speaking of Haifa, we sat down with Khadija, an elderly lady who was forced out of her home in 1948 when she was a young child from current-day Haifa. Let's hear the story of her sad plight, what UNRWA has provided for her, and about her dreams of one day returning to Palestine.
احنا اجينا على المخيم، طلعنا من البلاد من ال48، رحنا على مصر، من مصر على صحراء سيناء، من صحراء سيناء على الأنطرة، من الأنطرة على معسكر المغازي، من معسكر المغازي جينا على غزة. لما بنوا كنا بخيم عند ورا السرايا هناك عند الجميزات، لما بنوا هنا الأوض قالوا بنينا المخيم، جينا من سنة ال50 ضلينا هنا أوض، حاطين لنا كرميد والابواب والشبابيك تنك تبع سمنه، ولا في مي ولا كهرباء ولا شيء على الضواء، وكله رمل كنا برمول يحطوا لنا المي بس كل يوم ساعتين، نعبي، اللي يعبي يعبي واللي ما يعبيش ما يعبيش. كانوا حاطين لنا بيوت مي بالشوارع، واحدة للنسوان واحدة للرجال، يصفوا على الدور الناس. الذل اللي شفناه ما حدا شافه. والله العظيم احنا عايشين ومش عايشين، بقول لك احنا مدفونين بالحياة، خيال عايشين. هي عيشتنا عيشة بكفي الحصار، بكفي قطع المي، قطع الكهرباء، المؤن نصه بكفينا ونصه ما بكفيناش. اللي عندهم عيال من وين يجيبوا ياكلوا؟ شغل ما فيش، دعم ما فيش، ايش نعمل؟ بنقول يا رب، من قال يا رب ما خاب ولا سكرت بالشباب، دايما نقول يا رب. نحلم نرجع ان شاء الله على البلاد. ابو عمار قالها من الحدود للحدود، كل شبر فيكي حيعود. اهل غزه واهل فلسطين اهل الصمود، وما يصح الا الصحيح، ويا جبل ما يهزك ريح. القدس النا واحنا للقدس، مسلمين ومسيحيين حنرجع لك يا فلسطين. والله يا شي كثير الأونروا واقفه معانا، بيعطونا طحين وسكر ورز وعدس وسيرج وحليب وعلب سردينه، معلش يعني نص القيمه ولا القيمه كلها، يعني نص العمى ولا العمى كله بيعطونا، مش ما بيعطوناش. بعدين هينا مسكنيننا، هينا كيف لو ندفع اجرات احنا ايش بنعمل؟
Welcome back, and let's welcome back Dr. Ahlam Mustahib. Dr. Ahlam, now UNRWA's mandate has been extended by the UN General Assembly. Do you see this as a global victory against Israel and the United States?
Yes, sure, actually. It is indeed, since the mandate of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees, what we call UNRWA, was extended with 169 votes in favor, 9 abstentions, and only Israel and the United States actually voted against the resolution. So in a way, the United States was not able to muscle its usual pressure that it uses politically against marginal and small countries to have them vote on its side. So that's from one side, you know, and also last week, this was confirmed by the decision by the International Criminal Court's prosecutor's decision, Fatou Bensouda, who actually found a basis for investigating possible war crimes by Israel in the occupied territories, Palestinian territories. So now they are waiting just to confirm the jurisdiction of the court, but actually the decision was made. It's a little bit late, of course. It came after 5 years of investigation, but late justice is better than no justice at all, right? So I hope we are in the right direction also to challenge the hegemony of the United States and the dominance in the region, of course, alongside Israel. So I think in a way, actually, that confirms that the U.S. and Israel lost some ground with the latest vote in the United Nations.
And Dr. Ahlam, we saw after the UN vote, the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas and the Palestinian Authority once again rejected the so-called deal of the century. Is Washington's initiative dead before it has even begun?
Yes, Hamas and the PA and almost all Palestinians, including all factions, especially the refugees, have rejected the so-called deal of the century outright from the start. The only few Palestinians that the U.S., Kushner in particular, and Israel were able to rally around the deal and get them to attend its first conference a few months ago were actually or last year, few business people who are considered by the Palestinian people, excuse me, as sellouts. This reminds us actually of the time when Israel created a Palestinian apparatus called Rawabit al-Qura in Arabic, in the occupied territories in its attempt to delegitimize and replace the PLO or the Palestinian Liberation Organization at that time. So it's needless to say that as they failed back in the 80s, they are going to fail again. So it's needless to say, really.
Okay. Dr. Ihlam Muhtasab, thank you very much for joining this episode of Palestine Files. Now, dear viewers, this topic has been trending on social media. It's time to find out what the online community has been posting. So we heard from the Palestinians and we heard from social media. This has also made the headlines across the globe. Let's see what those reports said. Do you remember that figure I told you about, 5.5 million? Even if half of the 5.5 million Palestinian refugees were to return, it would upset the Israeli balance of power. The Zionist project depends on Jewish demographic domination, and that's why Tel Aviv refuses to recognize the Palestinians' right of return. More recently, the United States has even refused to recognize the right of return for the descendants of Palestinian refugees. Again, Washington playing into Tel Aviv's hands. But there's always a but. With the appropriate approach and the right leadership shown on an international level, maybe one day the Palestinians will return home. That would put an end to decades of violence. Violence that many experts say is the root cause of all the problems in the Middle East. That wraps up this edition of Palestine Files. See you next time.